The US election is upon us, so I figured I'd give my view about who I support for president. Not that I can actually vote, or that necessarily the opinion of a random Australian counts for very much, but nevertheless, here we are. And unsurprisingly for viewers of this channel, I'm supporting President Trump. And I'll go through why. And in no particular order, there are several criteria that are important to me. These include immigration and border control, fiscal and tax policy, free speech, and I'm also concerned about things such as honesty and temperament, and what the presidency means for the direction of the country and therefore the direction of the rest of the world. And if you've got any thoughts about either of these two candidates, and neither of them really is very perfect, well, let me know that in the comments below. So let's start off with border security. Kamala Harris was the border czar under President Joe Biden. She likes to deny this, but she was in fact in charge of border-related issues. She monumentally dropped the ball, as did Joe Biden. She now claims to be in favor of border restrictions, but for the past 3.5 years, she was not. For much of that, she did not even visit the border. For much of that, she didn't even seem to care about the illegal immigration problem. During this time, illegal immigration has ballooned, and crime has surged, in part because of that illegal immigration. Another part of it is many of the Democrat states seemingly being rather complacent, perhaps rather blind, perhaps not caring about the crime from illegal immigrants. We see the issues, for example, of gangs taking over whole apartment complexes in Colorado and in Texas. Think on that for a second. It's not just gangs existing, it's gangs taking over apartment complexes. That is truly catastrophically bad. And if your immigration policies are leading to gangs coming across the border who are then occupying whole apartment buildings, there's something wrong with your border security. She now believes, of course, that immigration is a problem, or at least she says that it is. But that begs the question of why is it that she didn't even try to do anything about this over the past 3.5 years, during which she has been in charge? And why is it that they reversed many of Donald Trump's policies that kept the border somewhat intact? Now, she keeps talking about a bipartisan border security bill that supposedly existed. But I'll note that bipartisan bill only had a small amount of support from Republicans, and it would have still allowed a large amount of immigration to come across the border. It was really a capitulation. It was not, in fact, bipartisan, and there was bipartisan resistance to the bill because many Democrats actually voted against it. Trump, however, has consistently aimed to reduce illegal immigration and therefore improve security. He is the clear winner here, because people who are going to immigrate to a country should be vetted for security concerns. That should not be even remotely controversial. The second issue is fiscal and tax policy. Kamala Harris wants to increase capital gains tax and impose a wealth tax. This has been part of her platform and the Democrats' platform for a little while now. Now, I view wealth taxes as inherently repulsive. They are fundamentally normatively repugnant. There is no state of the world in which I would ever vote or agree to a wealth tax. The increase in capital gains tax is also bad because investing is how you achieve financial freedom in many countries such as the US or Australia or the UK. Increasing capital gains tax incrementally takes away some of that freedom. Donald Trump, by contrast, wants to cut taxes, but he does, however, want to impose tariffs. Now, tariffs are not exactly perfect. They can have unintended consequences. Donald Trump is hoping they will generate a lot of revenue, and also they would encourage companies to move their manufacturing into the US in order to avoid those tariffs. Now, certainly some companies will return manufacturing to the US in order to get around tariffs, but probably not as many as he is hoping. However, while tariffs are not the best policy, they are relatively quick to change, i.e., you can alter those through executive orders in many cases. However, once you've got a tax hike, that is near impossible to reverse. So therefore, I would take a short-term, slightly silly policy over a long-term, terrible policy any day. So to my mind, Trump is the clear winner, and it is not even close. Donald Trump's policies could also benefit Australia, slightly ironically. Because the AFR, for example, has noted that Donald Trump's policies could resound in what Australia needs to do to remain competitive. Australia, for a very long time, has been complacent. The Australian government has been focused on taking a larger slice of a shrinking economic pie, because GDP per capita has been falling. However, Australia really should be reducing taxes in order to grow the economic pie, so the government is taking a smaller slice of a larger pie. That's what they should be trying to do, because then everyone is better off. Now, Donald Trump's policies might force Australia to reduce taxes in order to be competitive. That is a net positive. The next issue is freedom of speech. Kamala Harris and the Democrats appear to take the position that if you disagree with them, then you're spreading the dreaded misinformation. If it doesn't support their party line, then it's somehow disinformation if you intend it to contradict them. This is clearly an absurd stance. It is especially absurd since the Democrats and Kamala Harris, particularly on their Twitter and X accounts, spread misinformation all the time. You can't trust anything they are saying. So rather, it is people throwing stones in glass houses. They are projecting what they are doing. They are accusing their opposition of doing what exactly they themselves are doing. It's hypocrisy 101. By contrast, Donald Trump realizes that the media is often misleading. Breaking the mainstream media cartel is a net positive. Donald Trump, while he has his challenges with the truth, for example, is not going around trying to suppress other people from saying whatever it is they want. His victory would be a victory for freedom of speech. As to honesty and temperament, therefore, both candidates have a fraught relationship with the truth. Both of them have spread mistruths at various points in time. It's difficult to know who exactly is worse than the other, because while Donald Trump is more bombastic with some of his errors, Kamala Harris is certainly more gaslighting with hers. Donald Trump, by contrast, has appeared on hours-long podcasts. These include, and this is not an exhaustive list, Joe Rogan, Lex Fridman, Pat Bet-David, and the Flagrant podcasts, amongst others. He's appeared on myriad news interviews, including hostile ones. He's exposed himself to interrogation. By contrast, Kamala Harris has only done friendly media. The closest she got to an interrogation was an interview by Bret Baier on Fox, but he is by far one of the most moderate Fox hosts. And even then, she arrived late and left early and filibustered the whole interview. She didn't answer the questions, and therefore she is not really actually been properly interrogated. Indeed, every time she talks, she waffles, she talks in circles, she filibusters. It's just a word salad. In short, both candidates have issues, but Kamala Harris appears to gaslight significantly more. She appears to lie and then accuse you of lying when you call her out on this. I view Harris as inherently less reliable and inherently more duplicitous in temperament than Donald Trump. Now, of course, we have the issue that happened all the way back in January. Trump did not handle that particular incident very well. In hindsight, he should have said that the media erroneously suppressed election-changing stories. These include the Hunter Biden laptop and the allegations of influence peddling. The influence peddling here is the real story. He could argue the government actively partook in suppressing information that would have changed the election, as revealed, for example, in the Twitter files. He could have simply claimed that he was defrauded because of the censorship and the fraudulent information being promulgated. He did not need to make dubious claims about voter numbers in order to make his case. But he still seems to do so, and it slightly baffles me. However, the Democrats and Kamala Harris appear to treat the voter base with contempt. If you don't reflexively support them, then apparently you are the problem. If you don't reflexively just fall into line, then there's something wrong with you. They appear to believe that you owe them your vote. The arrogance is palpable. The final issue, then, is the precedent that the election would set and the direction of the country. If the Democrats win, then it means 4 more years of the left-wing mob having carte blanche to bludgeon people into submission, whether it's on fiscal and tax policy, or on freedom of speech, or in the myriad other policies that might be important to you. It means ever more state control. If Donald Trump wins, by contrast, it means people have the ability to push back against the left-wing mob, whether it's on social issues or financial issues or both. It means a victory for smaller government and more freedom. This is especially so with the mooted Department of Government Efficiency, which Elon Musk in theory might end up heading up, and in which Ron Paul might ultimately serve. In short, a Trump victory means a rejection of all of the control freaks who seem to think they have a right to expropriate your assets and command you what to do. It's a victory for freedom. Kamala Harris and the Democrats would represent more state control, ever more encroachment of the government into your own personal affairs. Now, I'm sure there are many other issues that are core and important to many other people, but those are the issues that are the most important to me. And you can let me know your thoughts about those issues or others in the comments below. But those are the reasons I support Donald Trump in 2024. But of course, I'm just an Aussie, I can't vote in the US election, so maybe my opinion doesn't matter very much here. But still, those are my thoughts on it. And after all, what happens in the US echoes across the world. It sets a precedent and a tone for what might happen elsewhere. And potentially, if Donald Trump wins, it could lead to favourable outcomes in Australia. But give me your thoughts on the US election in the comments below.